5th gen Ram 2500. Is it worth the money? Unbelievable.
I thought we had no chance then.
1480 newton meters, 8-speed gearbox, core rear end, 4495 GVM, 4.5 tonne tow. Take another vehicle, make all of those modifications, and then I think it might change your mind. Chuck them in the comments. Would you trade in a 4th gen for a 5th gen? I'm going to answer all these questions. Tune in, watch this video. Welcome to an episode, a review for Patriot Games that I'm legitimately that excited about. I just got back from Fraser Island. I've had the new Ram 2500 now I'm going to say I've had it for about 4 or 5 weeks. Got the phone call from Ram Trucks Australia. We partnered with Ram Trucks Australia back in 2018, yeah? I remember 2017, I went over to Moab in the United States and I went wheeling over in Moab, and I had a buddy of mine that bought a Ram 2500 out to Moab, and we'd done some amazing tracks, and I was blown away with the thing. Got back home, I actually went to the Ram dealership, looked at one, drove one, ended up buying one, then somehow got in contact with Ram and we created this absolutely amazing partnership. Now, I will never ever forget, we might actually go and put some of the comments up there. When I built that first 2500, the hate that I got on social media of going away from a 79 series Land Cruiser. Because at that stage, it was like, if you're gonna go touring in Australia, it has to be in a Toyota, it has to be in a Nissan. Ram trucks are unreliable, American trucks are too big, and now we're looking at it 8 years later, the way that the Australian touring has changed. I think we were right at the forefront of that. We built that black Ram and we've done some amazing things with it. And then over the years, we developed this relationship with Ram Trucks Australia. The reason I've stuck with Ram Trucks Australia and the reason that I haven't gone down the route of any other American vehicle is purely the support here in Australia. Ram Trucks Australia now have dealerships in every capital city. They have dealerships in remote areas. They hold spare parts. They do the remanufacturing here in Melbourne. So they bring in the Rams from America, and they don't just cut and shut the dash and put in some sort of janky, steering apparatus to get the steering onto the right side. And I don't mean a pun intended, I mean like the actual right side of the road. They do a full remanufacture, new steering box and all the rest of it. So sticking with Ram Trucks Australia has just been an amazing relationship for us, an amazing opportunity. You've seen I've had every model of Ram over the years, 1500s, TRXs, 2500s. Nothing has blown me away like this truck has. When I heard that the new 2500 or new generation of 2500 was coming out, I actually got the phone call from Ram. I've still got my 2500. It's actually over in Western Australia at the moment, my last generation. It's still in Western Australia at the moment with the boat. I'm kind of doing a Jedi mind trick on myself because I knew if I leave it there, I have to go back, and I want to force myself to go back and catch up with the boys in Exmouth, like you saw in the WA series. But they told me that this thing was coming, and I was like, yeah, it's a new 2500. It's got a digital dash, and yeah, I didn't really look that much into it. The car got delivered to here and got parked out the front of Patriot HQ. The keys ended up on my desk. I went to go home that afternoon, pulled out of the driveway, I come down the street here and gave it a hit and just went, what the hell? Something's changed. Something's changed big time. We're up 400 newton meters on torque out of the box with this thing. 1,480 newton meters this thing makes, or thereabouts. The last generation made 1,060 or 1,070, so we're up about 400 newton meters. And it's so noticeable, but not just the power. The first thing that I noticed by the time I got home is the transmission. Like, the thing's banging through gears like a 8 HP. This thing's got a torque flight, 8-speed in it. Going back to the torque flight, my first car had a torque flight in it. I had a 904 in my Valiant Charger. And it brings back a lot of memories, but what they've achieved with the changes on this vehicle is night and day from the last generation Ram. This is such a big step forward for this particular platform that I was on Fraser Island and I ordered one. And I've actually got one turning up in the next couple of weeks. I've ordered one personally for myself. I'll go over to WA, pick up my old 2500, bring that back, get rid of that thing, and my new one's going to be arriving in the next couple of weeks. So the next trip that you see us out in is going to be in my own personal one. This one is actually a press car that they just lent to us. So I'm going to take you through some of the changes that they've made. This is not just another Ram walk around. We're going to show you some footage from Fraser Island and some moments at Fraser Island. I towed a Patriot ST7. We were loaded at, let's call it 3,300 kilos in a bog stock standard Ram 2500. You'll see Dad in his twin block 300 series towing an ST5. Thing has that much power and that much torque, and with that 8-speed, the power band is so linear when you're towing on this thing. It's just absolutely unbelievable. So come with me. If you're considering buying an American truck, you got to go and take one of these for a drive. All right, come on, Gil, let's go.
Yeah, Mum, don't let us down.
Come on, let's go. We're going, come on, let's go. This car is unbelievable.
I thought we had no chance then.
This thing is unbelievable.
I was ready for a digging.
How's that from a standstill up that soft hill?
That was crazy.
Now the first thing you're going to notice, body styling. If you go back to my white Super Ram, I completely iced that thing out. So my white 2500, I ended up getting everything that you can see here that comes factory now painted in white. I ended up deleting all the chrome on that first one, and I really like that they've gone away from the chrome on this model. I did paint all the grille infills here, which I might do on my new one. I've got some really big plans for my new one. I've actually registered mine in MB2 category, so mine's going to be on a light truck license. I'll get a lot more towing capacity, and I'm going to increase the GVM for some other accessories that I'm going to be putting on it. They come with a sports bonnet now, which looks really cool. You got a little scoop, not as big as the TRX or as angry as the TRX. The TRX, I've always said from day dot, was was the best vehicle that I've ever owned. But the reality is, for my lifestyle, I'm always towing. I've always got stuff in the back. I do use my trucks as a workhorse. I daily all of my trucks. You know, the trucks I don't have now, besides the black truck, the only vehicle I have sitting in the barn ready for a trip is the 79. And look, with that particular vehicle there, it's just, and anybody who's done it will back me up on this. You get to a point where you overbuild the thing, they become good for only one thing. So I'm really focused on keeping the vehicles more standard these days, because it gives me more versatility with them. I can daily them, I can fit them in the shopping centre, Sarah can go to the shops, I can go dirt bike riding, chuck my dirt bikes in the back. So I really like the idea of having a tub. But when it comes to the styling, you can see they're just super clean, and deleting all the typical American truck chrome, I think is a much better look. One thing that I hate is the big sideboards. Again, for off-road ability, I've scratched the hell out of these. Your ramp over angles, because they're so long between the axles, the wheelbase is so long. And probably the other downside that's been on every Ram that I've owned so far, but I didn't have the problem up at Fraser Island, is the factory tyres. They come with road tyres. They're very susceptible to punches. You do have to run the thing super hard, but the biggest problem is the rolling diameter of the tyre. When it comes to most of your American trucks, and Ram definitely has this issue, the axle tubes and the pumpkins of the diff are so big on these things that the only way to get the ground clearance out of them, you can give them as much body lift as you like, but you're still going to get hung up on your diffs. So you can go to a maximum 35-inch tyres on these things here. There are other ways, so you can bolt a 35 onto these legally. There are other ways to get bigger tyres on, but we're going to go much bigger on the tyres in the build that we've got coming up, just to give it that real ground clearance. The sand's where it's the most problem typically with these things, because as soon as those pumpkins hit the sand, you start spinning the tyres, you end up on the axle tubes, and pulling one of these out can be a big problem. Downhill, stay downhill. Okay. Super soft up here. Well, I am on road tyres and we are heavy. So I'm not used to towing stuff this big. I feel like a fish out of water.
Yeah, every time I see it in a review.
She's a big girl, eh? Got your standard, and I say standard, the things that you would expect from a vehicle that come from this price point now. You got keyless entry, you got remote start, remote tailgate dropping. I was at Bunnings on Sunday with the thing, and I was, you know, trying to wheel a trolley around. I bought a chicken coop for Sarah, believe it or not, for Mother's Day. I ended up buying the chicken coop and I ended up putting it together, and then I ended up going and getting the chicken, so I don't know where the kids were during all of that, but I was trying to wrangle the trolley up there and I literally just felt around in my pocket and double clicked and hit the tailgate and slid the thing straight in when I got there. So that's a really, really cool feature. I'll talk to you a little bit about size of these things, and one thing that kind of blew me away, the camera systems in these trucks, you've got to know that they're there and you've got to use them. How you going?
Good, how are you?
Good. Having fun?
So much fun.
All right, I want to show you something. Check this out. So this is all my camera settings. Look at this. Top and front. So I can place the corner of the car. So if I want to go around something, I can place the corner of the car like right on it. But you've got other stuff too. So now when I'm towing, if I go into trailer reverse guidance, look at this.
Hey, looking good.
We're long, eh?
You're very long.
We're so long. Taking this thing through Nagala Rocks with the 7-metre trailer behind it, it was challenging. It wasn't the most difficult thing that I've ever done, but it was challenging from the perspective that you have all of that rock on the side of Nagala Rocks, and what you don't want to do is put your truck into one of those rocks. So putting the overview cameras, the top view cameras, you got rear cameras, side cameras. I've got the cameras set up on this thing, so when I put the indicator on, it'll come up with the left-hand lane so I can see any traffic beside me, right indicator, right-hand lane. But you still, if you're not thinking about it all the time, people will say that the trucks are too big for off-roading. They're not too big, you just have to be more mindful of it. It's not like driving around in the Jeep or even like driving around in the Land Cruiser. Did you bring the boat?
That was your job, babe.
No. Oh. Right, okay. So I ended up catching a tree branch like right in the perfect position when I was on, right-hand lock, going around. There was a little stump sticking out here and it's grabbed the corner of the bar and folded the bar over. But one of the things I was blown away was this bar's actually steel. I thought that they'd just be plastic and I'd pop it back on. But that wasn't particularly the case. Come down the back and I'll show you a little bit around the tub. All right, so coming around to the back, this one here, the press truck that I got, doesn't have the ram box. If you're planning on leaving your tub on, you've seen in other videos from me, ram box is something that I think you just have to have. Once you have ram box, it's very, very difficult to go back. It's just usability wise, jamming all your tools, camping gear, everything else and the rest, just makes it really easy. Let's talk about one of the main reasons that you buy an American truck, and specifically a Ram, is towing capacity. Now there's two variants that come in this platform in the heavy duties. Platform A is your 2500, platform B is the 3500. The main difference between the two, and the one thing that you really want to consider when it comes to what your payload is and what you're going to be towing, 2500 is coil sprung in the rear, 3500 is leaf sprung in the rear. Now with the 3500, the main difference that you get with the 3500 is the payload increase. This 2500, although it's a big truck, they have to be D-rated for Australia to fit in with our laws. So GVM on this thing is 4495 and max towing braked on the hitch is 4.5 tonne. If you go with a gooseneck in Australia, so if you don't know what a gooseneck is, it's a big plate, turntable that sits in the middle, like a semi-trailer. You can tow up to 8 tonne on the back of the thing. Now, for me, the payload is not a big consideration for me because I don't run around with a lot of weight in the back anymore. If you're gonna be fitting a big canopy on the back, if you're gonna be carrying something heavy, you definitely look at the 3500 with the leaf springs and you get a much, much higher payload, or if you're looking for a flat out work truck. If you're into farming or plant equipment, machinery, that sort of stuff, 3500 is a better way to go. Compromise with the 3500, you're not going to get the ride quality that you're going to get out of coils. Now, typically for us, on every Ram I get, the first thing that I do, I get rid of the factory springs and I'll do an airbag replacement kit from Airbag Man. That gives me the ability to obviously level the back of the truck depending on what I'm towing or what I have on the hitch. But I think the ride quality is far superior to a spring as well because you get that progressive rate in the springs. So even when you're loaded and you hit a bump, the airbags will compress and the spring rate will actually increase. So they ride much, much better. Ball weight on the 2500, 450 kilos they're rated up to. Most of your other four-wheel drives, like your Japanese four-wheel drives, will be around 350 kilo, 3.5 tonne. But with the 2500, 450 kilos on the ball, so you can run something a bit heavier. Obviously, it doesn't really affect us with Patriot campers, but you do get the 4.5 tonne tow. One thing to consider, really consider, we see this at Patriot campers a lot, just because your hitch has a rating of 350 kilos or 450 kilos of ball weight, that's always, manufacturers always quote that for on-road towing situations. When you go off-road, you hit big potholes, you're sitting on corrugations, big washouts and all the rest of it, the dynamic load rating of the hitch goes absolutely through the roof, and you will be well above that. And that's where you see people getting into trouble with, you know, bending hitches, or in the worst case, bending chassis or any of that sort of stuff. Select the right vehicle for whatever you're towing. If you're towing something that's got a 200 or 250 kilo hit ball weight, you want to be looking at a vehicle that has a 450 kilo load capacity to allow for those big hits. And we're seeing that so much more now with people loading things up as hard as they are. And that's one of the reasons that we've obviously developed Trinamic as well, to absorb a lot more of those bumps. You can also option these into an MB2 category. If you get them as an MB2, the downside with an MB2 is you have to have I think it's a medium rigid license. I've got a multi-combination license, so I can drive road trains and that sort of stuff. So the category I'm not 100% on. You might want to check that out, but a medium rigid license is required. 0 alcohol, so there's no 0.05. You do have some sort of restrictions with it, but you do get a higher GVM on the truck when you buy it directly from Ram. In the rear, it's just your standard kind of top. 6'4", the 2500 only comes in here in Australia. You'll notice actually in Patriot Games, we've got a new chase truck over there, which is a Hemi-powered 2500, and we've got an 8-foot bed on that one. But unfortunately, 8-foot bed is not available here in Australia. And honestly, I wouldn't buy an 8-foot bed truck here in Australia. Our country's just not set up for that. In America, you pull up to Home Depot, which is their Bunnings over there. The car parks are like a metre wider and 2 or 3 metres longer, and it's easy to get around with a big bed. Got a roll up tonneau. You got the standard feature that you'd have in the back of all 2500, which is the opening rear window. So you can chuck the kids in the back of the tray, check on them while you're driving down the highway. Don't do that, that's not legal here, but it's perfectly legal in the United States. I think the rule is, in most states, if you're over 15 years old, you can ride in the back of the bed, and we see that everywhere. Down in Mexico, you do whatever you want, you put whoever you want. Shape, still very, very similar to the last gen 2500. The major updates on the shape, chrome's gone, it's got the sports bonnet on it with the intake, headlights are a little bit different, front bars a little bit different. Where it really changes is on the interior. So let's jump in. I'm going to show you through some of the new features and some of the technology in the new 2500 that now I've had it, it's going to be hard to live without it. All right, interior. This is super exciting. Now, one thing I haven't discussed here, if you order a Ram in the United States, which I've been into there to the Ram dealership, I've got a 2500 Prospector over there, also have a gas 2500 over there. The options from available at the dealership are mind-blowing. It's so confusing. 6 or 7 different trims, gearboxes, axle ratios or diff ratios in it. Power plants, you can go diesel or you can go gas, again with the trims. Now what Ram Trucks Australia have done here in Australia is taken all of that BS really away from you, which, trust me, you want it, because when I went to the dealership to order my Prospector originally, it was too hard, to be honest with you. And when it comes to the power plant, well, there is only one choice. And before I get into the interior, I might just talk just a little bit more about the engine package, because that's the one thing that absolutely blew me away. And a lot of that touring that we were doing, it's the first time that I've actually really towed a tandem axle trailer on sand. I haven't done a lot of that before. The ST7 is a very, very new product to Patriot, and I'm used to towing around the X range. When it came to on the way up there, the first thing that Dad and I did, obviously we went and got fuel and we reset our odometers, we reset our trip computers. I was averaging between here and Gympie, which is about 200 odd kilometres, towing that trailer full of water, full of food, fully loaded up. I averaged 15.9 litres per 100 kilometre in this big beast towing that. So I'm, for the first time in my life, I'm watching fuel, and I'll go from service station to service station. I've never done that before. But when we're running such a big fleet of vehicles, you've got to consider really every single dollar. Dad was averaging in his 300 series Land Cruiser, towing his ST5, which he was about a tonne, give or take, less than I was. He was averaging around 20, 21 litres per 100. Now, when we ended up getting onto the sand and getting into low range and everything, obviously all of that goes out the window. At the pump, that's where it's hurting at the moment. Fuel here right now, $3.89 a litre for diesel. $3.89, never ever seen that in my life. Right now, when we're filming this week, about $2.80 a litre right now on the Gold Coast, $3.90 up here. So fuel's definitely coming into it now, right? It comes into when you're planning trips and your destination touring, everybody is thinking about it, everyone's talking about it. But the misconception is it's a big American truck, it's a big gas guzzler. That's not the case. When you've got the power available and you've got the torque available, you don't have to work the engine as hard. So we're consistently on much, much lower RPM than you would be in, say, an underpowered vehicle. So there is a bit of a false economy when it comes to, yeah, look, they're expensive, the American trucks, but it's like anything, you get what you pay for, right? But it does affect your back pocket when you start talking on your touring trips, especially when you're towing and especially when you load it up. The torque on this thing, I said it before, and I think I might have said it 500 times, but it's the one thing that blew me away. After having the opportunity to drive so many different cars and so many different versions of Rams, it's just amazing, the power band on this thing. It's just, I can't think of a better word than linear. Like, it doesn't matter the situation it's in or what it's towing. I said to Dad a couple of times, towing that felt like towing a Patriot X1 at 1 tonne behind a 200 series Land Cruiser. That's the best comparison I could give it. You just noticed that you had the weight on there, but it didn't really affect the vehicle. This thing here, towing the ST7, it literally doesn't know it's there, but doesn't know it there just from the effort of the right foot, because you don't have to use any more right foot because it's got so much torque and so much gearing now as well. And the transmission it's so smart. The gears that it selects, you never have to take the thing out of drive, and in any situation you put your foot down, whether you want to hammer it or whether you want to call out of something, it just does absolutely everything right. I don't know if you want to bring it through when it's soft. First thing that I noticed, I'm not 100% sold on it, they got rid of the bench seat. And the coolest thing about having an American truck was those long drives home, whether might sound a little bit odd or a little bit cliche, but every now and again, Sarah'd end up in the middle seat, I'd have my arm around her and we'd be on those long drives home. Or those opportunities of, taking the kids to footy on the weekend, piling up 6 in here, going through the Macca's drive-through. I really like going 6 up. The trade-off, it's so much more comfortable. So this is a very similar center console, and this is another one of those options that you get if you were buying a truck at a dealership in America. Do you want a 6-seater or do you want a 5-seater? Oh, I don't really know. Now you've only got one choice, but you've got, similar to the 1500, you've got so much storage. We drove Sarah's 300 series up on the weekend. Last weekend we went up to Australia Zoo. I took a couple of my nieces up there. Where are we? Australia Zoo. Is that a good one? Yeah. Yeah? 3 in the back. We had nowhere to put a bottle of water. Sarah's center console is full. You can only fit one phone here. In a Ram, completely different. Like, how much gear do you want to take? And when you're on long trips, it makes a lot of difference. You got 2 charging ports here for 2 iPhones. So Sarah's would sit here, mine would sit here. Sarah would have her handbag right in the middle. You don't even notice. When she chucks it in there, you slide that tray forward, 2 cup holders, and then you can tell Sarah's been in here, and you can tell I've been towing because I've got spare MIDI fuses for the Anderson plug, sunnies, power cords, but then you've also got the back as well. Like, that's all storage too. So I don't know what you want to put in it, maybe a dog, some sort of animal, I'm not really sure. Actually, there's some conversion charts here. They look like they're imperial, so we might not even go there. Key fob, one of those little things that you don't really consider, but the main buttons you want to obviously lock and unlock. You've got proximity on that and proximity lighting. One that I use every morning, and I use it during winter. I find with the big diesel, with the Cummins and the sound of it and all the rest of it, I don't like driving big diesels cold. I'll get into a petrol car and start it up and just drive out down the driveway. You don't really think about it. I don't know what it is, but there's something in the back of my head that it's such a big motor and it chugs and you're like, I don't know, maybe it comes from the Mack truck, you want to get it hot. So remote start is a really good thing. If you leave your heater settings on your air conditioning settings on, when we're traveling out west, before we get out the car in the night, we'll generally put the aircon on flat out, so in the morning I'll remote start it. And then by the time you jump in the car, everything's cooled down. And the other one is the tailgate, which again, it's one of those things, if you didn't have it, you wouldn't miss it. But once you've got it, I use that all the time. Oh, we don't want to start it. Oh, but actually let's hear it. Listen to this. Yeah, and you'll know what I'm talking about. It just feels like, oh man, like it just every time you get in the truck, you're happy driving this truck. But warming the thing up in the morning is something that I do all the time. Let me just get the ignition on for you. Now let's talk about UConnect, because the UConnect system in Ram is by far, by a long shot, the easiest in-car entertainment system that I've ever used. The voice recognition on this, navigate to or call whoever in your phone, it never misses, ever misses. Navigate to, blah, 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 give it a street, navigate, and then it comes up, do you want to go here? Bang, gets you every single time. But even going through the menus, CarPlay, like right in the center of the screen, doesn't matter where you are in the screen, you know it's there. So you can go straight into your CarPlay, you can see I've got maps, I've got music, got my calendar up, you can change all the views, go into the apps. That is for all other vehicle manufacturers. Do that on every car and nobody will ever complain about your system. Home, I haven't set up any widgets. You do have the ability to get Ram, or I think it's just the Mopar set of apps. Yeah, I don't use any of that stuff because I find everything's on the CarPlay. Obviously, media is pretty straightforward. Sources, straight on the left. I want to go to the radio, I want to listen to my phone. That's simple. I don't understand why you have to, on other systems, go through 45 different menus to find an FM station. The other really nice thing about UConnect, all of your buttons that you want quick access to without going into a menu, they're down both sides of the screen right here. Temperature for the passenger, temperature for the driver, demister, aircon, recirc, which is massive if you're traveling on dusty roads. You want the ability to recirc on and off when you hit the dust, and your fan controls are right there. Now you've also got heated seats. I think we're heated in the rear now on the new 2500. I remember Sarah having to play around with them for one of the kids, and you got air conditioned seats. Vehicle cameras. This is the biggest change that I found with the new 2500. Not typically something that I go looking for tech, but when I was on Gari or Fraser Island, whatever you want to call it, I used this a lot. And this was the main camera that I used right here. Might have to have the car running for that. Yeah, okay. For some reason you have to have the car running for the top and front camera. Not sure the reason why. You can see in the view here when we were going through Nagala Rocks, I could see absolutely everything that was around me on every single side and every panel of the car. Should have been looking at that camera when I was reversing and hit the tree. But I also had the front view on as well. So I could place the wheels and see the rocks, but for damage, the other thing, I don't know whether you can actually see it here, but see how you got this like zebra stripe that comes out, this square box at the top? That shows the full proximity. Obviously there's some allowance because I took it right to the edge and I didn't scratch anything. Shows you the proximity on where you can place the actual front of the car, stop you from any damage. Now, I can go to full front, full rear. This is a rear view with a top view. And then obviously your two cargo cameras. one over the bed. This one was also really good on the Gala Rocks. If I got to the stage where I got the car through and I could see from the top view that the car was okay, then I'd flick to the rear and then I could see right down the sides of both of the trailers. Absolutely amazing the way that it works. You've got a heap of different cameras that you can use. So it'll be, and I still haven't used them all. Trailer reverse guidance is one that I started using right towards the end. You can see when you're swinging your trailer in reverse, it gives you guidance on left and right on where to input the steering wheel as you're reversing your trailer. So passenger curb view, you can see right, so if I'm pulling up beside a fire hydrant or something like that, or pulling up alongside a gutter, you can see right on the passenger side, directly at the curb, what's beside you at the curb for when you're parking. So the other one that I wanted to show you, like I spoke about before, is your blind spot cameras. Now I've got this thing set up at the moment. When I turn my indicator on, actually it might do it for me. No, you've got to be moving. If I turn the indicator on when I'm going down the highway, it brings up my blind spot. I can see if anyone's beside me, motorcyclists or any of the rest of it. So it's just, they're really, really cool. So next one is dashboard in the menu. This is something that I started using a little bit towards the end of the trip that we just went on. Pitch and roll of the vehicle. When I'm running with the ST7, I've got the Garmin screen up the top there on the ST7. I'm looking at the pitch and roll of the trailer and looking at the pitch and roll of obviously the vehicle as well. Accessory gauges, if you want to see what the car is doing, it's so intuitive now. I wouldn't really worry about this over here. If you're interested, yeah, bring it up and have a look at it. In the TRX, I'd have a look at that a lot. But the one that you will use is the vehicle dynamics. When you go into selecting your different modes and you've got this thing is two-wheel drive standard, so it's only constant two-wheel drive, helps a lot with fuel consumption. And then you've got a high range and a low range. When you go into high or low range, it'll show you what's actually locked in, if your transfer case is locked, and it also gives you your steering angle input, which again, I don't think you're really going to use that a whole lot. You can preset trailers in this. So if you've got multiple trailers that you tow, you can tell the vehicle which trailer that you're towing. You tell it the length. It can do an automatic light check, yeah, to check that the lights are working. You can set up the brake controller on it, so you can put a certain amount of gain. So say a ST5 on disc brakes, I might have gain set very, very low because the disc brakes are efficient. And then I tow an X2, I might have that set up on the drum brakes and I might want a little bit more gain. So there's some other bits and pieces that you can do in there on that dashboard that I haven't really played around with a lot. Then you've got controls, which is your cameras and all the rest of it, and then a settings page. There's 1,000 different settings that you can do, but you can go through, you can change scenes and you can do the rest of it. Focused a little bit on that, on the UConnect system, because it's absolutely insane. It's awesome because it's so usable. Anybody can jump in this and use one of them. The display on this thing is absolutely amazing. The biggest one that I would be using on a daily basis. You've got lane changing stuff here, cruise controllers in there, tyre pressures are a big one, obviously on these big trucks. Your fuel consumption, that's the one that I kind of keep it on. You can, all your CarPlay integrates into the dash now as well, so if you've got navigation up, the nav will come up on there. You can select your music tracks, and like the last 2500, the steering wheel on this thing's awesome. Change your track on this side, volume up and down on this side. You've got gear limiter, so if you want to, if you're hauling something big up a hill, or let's say you're going into a bog, you don't want the thing to change gears, you can actually limit the gears and say don't go past second or third gear, so it won't automatically change on you. Then you've obviously got all your cruise control, your adaptive settings are all in there, your menus and all your phone stuff's on the left-hand side there. Column shifter on the 2500, it wouldn't be 2500 without a column shifter, unless you buy a gas one. And I was really disappointed when we bought the Hemi 2500 in the US. It's got the dial like the 1500, so you just don't have that manly feel of the shifter. Storage here, storage there, in the door pockets. Sunroof, all of your buttons here for opening rear window, opening the sunroof. Probably the only other thing I haven't spoken about is the engine braking or the jake brake. The Rams are built to tow. They come standard with a brake controller. So you can adjust your gains here. You've got a tow haul mode, which will change the torque profile of the engine, change the gearbox setting, but you've also got exhaust brakes. So if you're towing, where I really noticed it is, again, I'm just starting to tow bigger trailers like the ST7. you really notice that exhaust braking coming down any ranges, coming down any mountains. When you've got the exhaust brake on, you kind of use the throttle to get to a speed that you want, say 60 kilometres an hour. Just let your foot off the throttle. You don't have to touch the brakes, it'll just maintain it all the way down to the bottom, and especially with cruise. And that's the big advantage of a diesel with an exhaust brake. So let's maybe jump into the back. I'll give you a quick look around the back, and we might look at, actually I'll show you the engine before we go. Let's have a look at the back, then we'll have a look at the power plant. All right, the rear, pretty typical Ram rear. One thing I've said in a lot of videos, if you're considering a family wagon for family touring, like any touring car, any 5-seater, look, 4 seats is obviously ideal for long distance touring. You got 4 adults in the back of this thing. I've got that seat pushed back pretty far at the moment, but the room in the back of these things, like you can tour in these things for days with 4 adults, and it's really not a problem. Storage in the back is super cool and always has been in the back of the Rams. Typically speaking, when I'm getting around during the week, these are always folded up. So everything's locked and secure in the back there. Pets, dogs, the other huge advantage of this here. If I'm on a long touring trip on my own, I'll throw a mattress along the back here, and I've slept in the back here many times. Every fink, Sarah sleeps in the back of the 2500. You know, some years she's slept in the passenger seat. You can almost lay that thing flat. Let's have a look at the engine. Yeah, it's a big block of cast aluminium, but it's impressive. All right, so the big donk. 6.7 Cummins, I just said cast aluminium, but it's a block aluminium, or, oh no, it looks steel. All right, the blocks are steel, head's aluminium, yeah? 1,458 newton meters of torque, 313 kilowatts. The torque is what you're looking for in these big things to move this big mass. The 6.7 Cummins has been around for a very, very long time. I don't know, I can't tell you exactly what's changed in this to make it a high output. The biggest change I've heard is the redevelopment of the head. So it flows much better. I'm sure that there's turbo upgrade. I'm sure they've done some other upgrades as well. But at the end of the day, it's so noticeable. You can't give all the credit just to that 6.7 Cummins, because yes, it's producing the power, but the way you put that power to the ground and how the vehicle delivers that power to the ground, and that's one of the things that I've really noticed with this thing, with that 8-speed. I can't, hand on heart, I cannot, you gotta go drive one, you know, get yourself into a Ram dealership. If you're looking for an American truck, you're looking for a tow vehicle, you're looking for planning your next touring build, do yourself a favour, get into a Ram dealership, yeah? The grey import stuff, I mean, everybody knows how I feel about that. These things are a lot of money. Yeah, they're a big investment. You know, there are a lot of small companies that are bringing in US trucks and converting them. Look, I'm not saying that they're doing anything wrong. I'd question the warranty, I'd question the availability of spare parts, but the thing I would question the most is the build quality. You know, with Ram Trucks Australia, you know, with ASV, you're not getting a conversion, you're getting a remanufactured vehicle that is fully supported here in Australia with spare parts and a dealer network that would rival any of the other automotive companies that have been in Australia for a long time. So that the stigma's now gone. American trucks are not capable, they're not supported, they're not serviced. It's just not the case. You can't argue that fact anymore. Vans are getting bigger, people want to tow more, people want to carry more. Everybody is very acutely aware of GVM laws now here in Australia. You don't want to get caught in that situation that you hurt someone or your insurance doesn't pay out. You want to stay compliant. So maybe now I'm just getting a little bit smarter as I get older. You know, my dad used to say it to me since I was a kid. Keep it simple, stupid. KISS, the KISS principle. And that's what I'm going to be doing with my next Ram build. For me now, I daily these things. I've got everything that I need in the Patriot Campers trailer now. I'm in a little bit of a different situation. I don't need a canopy. I don't need a rooftop tent. I don't need solar on board. I don't need a big electronics package. I'm going to build my next Ram to suit what I do with it when it comes to the Patriot Super Tour range, towing an ST5 or an ST7. I have everything in the trailer. I'm gonna put a lot of focus in suspension. what we've achieved with Trinamic now in the Super Tourer range, that trailer can move so much quicker across rough terrain than any vehicle can. So I want to make this thing perform up to a level where I can get across the bumps a little bit quicker without beating everything to death. So that's where I'm going to put the focus. That's where I'm going to put a lot of the investment into the build. But you're not going to see a lot of stuff hanging off it in the first instance. And then towards the end of the year, I'm going to undo everything that I just said. And me, the twins, the engineering department here at Patriot Campers, we're ready. We're ready for another project. It's been a long time since we pulled off a big build, from the Super Ram, the black truck, the Mega 6, the FJ, the GU, the 105, you know, the Gladiator. We've done some amazing big builds, but we've never done anything like what we're about to embark on towards the end of the season. And this platform has just lit a spark that it's the ultimate platform to do. Bring all of that together. Get yourself into a dealership, go drive a Ram 2500, consider where your money's going, consider what's going to happen after you buy it, consider parts, consider servicing, consider the build quality. Ram Trucks Australia, it's really the only place to go. Hope you've enjoyed this. Any questions, chuck them in the comments. We do have a partnership with Ram, but like the 10 years of Patriot Games, we don't partner in any products that I don't believe in. We never have, we never will. This is my staple. This is the number one, the best tow vehicle that I can put in front of one of the Patriot Campers products. I'll be in the comments. I'll answer any questions that you have on it, but I just can't stress enough, go and drive one because you will absolutely fall in love with it.